This is Rebecca Weinstein for WHRO FM. We continue our virtual chamber music concert series this week featuring exclusive performances from local musicians. A new concert video premieres each Monday evening at 5 on the WHRO Public Media Facebook page. The audio recordings will also air on A Local Touch Wednesday evenings at 9 on WHRO FM. These performances were recorded in November of 2020 at the Susan S. Goode Fine and Performing Arts Center at Virginia Wesleyan University. This week's concert features talented pianist Lee Jordan Anders. Lee is an artist in residence and professor of music emeritus at Virginia Wesleyan, where she served on the faculty for 29 years. She continues to perform frequently both as a soloist and as a collaborative pianist. I spoke with Lee about how life has been lately, the music that she's sharing with us, and how she wants us to walk away feeling. Well, I guess first and foremost, how are you doing? How are you hanging in during all of this as an artist and performer?
You know, I live in a place where it's so easy to be isolated. I live in the middle of a beautiful forest of pine trees. I'm looking out at them right now. I have a beautiful studio. I have beautiful music to practice. I have occasional students who come for lessons. I'm an introvert to begin with, so some of the people like me are saying, gosh, this is kind of great. We don't have to go out and pretend to be social and charming, because we can just sit and read our books and play our music and enjoy life in a very intimate way, which is what I'm doing now.
On our chamber music series, Lee's performing music of Claude Debussy, a composer she's always had an affinity for. She'll be playing Danse, an early work of his, in which he plays with rhythm in a way that really foreshadows some of his later works. Lee's also performing Estampe, a suite of 3 movements called Pagodas, Evening in Granada, and Gardens in the Rain.
I just love the physical element. I mean, sometimes you like the intellectual element of a piece of music. Like right now, I'm doing the Bach Italian Concerto. Well, that's very intellectual. But the Debussy, the final movement, the Gardens in the Rain, oh my goodness, it's a toccata, and it just feels so good in your hands to play this. And of course, in the Estampe, he starts to do all those fun things with tonality. He uses the pentatonic scales, the whole tone scales, the chromatic scales that are defying the traditions of sticking to a major or minor tonality. He's saying, no, I want more than 2 choices. And so he uses all of these scales as well as some church modes, and the effect is just magical. I love his music for all of those reasons.
In addition to her affinity for Debussy, Lee has a passion for connecting music and visual art. She's worked with Norfolk's Chrysler Museum and the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts in Richmond to create several programs drawing connections between paintings and music.
The Impressionist composer Debussy, particularly, they took the elements of music, meaning tonality as well as the rhythmic elements, and they rearranged them in a way similar to the way that the painters took the elements of their art, the colors. They took them individually and let your eye do the work. So if you go to the Chrysler Museum of Art and you look at that beautiful Renoir painting, and you look up very closely, you can't even tell what color it is, because there's little flecks of this, that, and the other. So the painters took the element of their craft. They decided they were going to do it in a different way. In a similar fashion, the composers took the elements of their craft, rhythm, tonality, timbre, and they decided they were going to do that in a different way too.
You know, lately more than ever, music can really serve as a great source of kind of escape and imagination, as I think you touched on when speaking during your performance. So I guess people that are seeing your performance or hearing your performance when it airs on Wednesday night, how do you want people to walk away feeling?
When we hear a piece of music, when we meet a new person the very first time, we are infatuated, we are enchanted with this first impression. And that's a very valid impression. Don't deny that that's super. So when you hear this music, if you just love it for that first impression, that's great. But then if you learn a little bit about Debussy and you learn about when he wrote this and that he'd been to the Paris Exposition and he'd seen these Javanese gamelan players, that's going to add another layer of understanding to the first piece. If you learn about his completely scandalous personal life, oh my goodness, that's going to add another layer of understanding. So each of these layers reveal a different experience, but one is never better than the other.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point to make that, just sitting there and saying, wow, that's beautiful piano music. That's enough. If someone wants to listen at that level, that's totally fine. But I do agree that the more you learn, it can become a completely different piece in your ears,
And it's neither better nor worse. It's just different.
Different. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. I really appreciate it. And thank you for lending us your talents for this performance.
Well, thank you and all the people at Virginia Wesleyan as well as WHRO for your inviting me. It's been a pleasure to be a part of this series.
That was pianist Lee Jordan Anders. Her performance for WHRO's Chamber Music Series will premiere Monday at 5 p.m. on the WHRO Public Media Facebook page. You can find the link to watch and the schedule of upcoming performances at whro.org/virtual concerts. This series is partially supported by funding from the Virginia Commission for the Arts and the National Endowment for the Arts. For WHRO FM, I'm Rebecca Weinstein.